What if I told you that the most innocent cartoons you grew up watching weren't so innocent after all? We'll uncover the hidden layers of children's entertainment from above, all the way to what's buried deep beneath the surface. Once you see it, you can't unsee it. Remember that moment when you caught something weird in a cartoon but shrugged it off as your imagination? Perhaps you noticed an adult character making a comment that felt out of place, or a scene that made you uncomfortable without understanding why. You probably told yourself you were overthinking it. After all, these were children's shows, right? Those innocent children's shows were packed with content that wasn't meant for children at all. Studios deliberately planted adult jokes, sexual hints, and mature themes throughout programming designed for kids. They knew exactly what they were doing, and they counted on children missing these references, while adults caught them and stayed entertained. Take SpongeBob SquarePants, a show millions of kids watched religiously. In one episode, SpongeBob holds out 2 bars of soap to Gary, winks, and says, "Don't drop 'em."
Why, no, Gary, this isn't the bathtub. It's treasure! Look, doubloons! Don't drop 'em.
This joke references prison assault, something no child should ever encounter in their cartoons. The writers knew kids wouldn't understand the reference, but they included it anyway for the adults in the room. Rugrats took this approach even further. In one scene, Grandpa Lou holds up a video and says, "And my personal favorite, lonely space victims. That's for after you go to bed."
I rented you boys some movies. Reptar Come Home, Reptar Redux, and my personal favorite, Lonely Space Vixen. That's for after you go to bed.
He's talking about adult entertainment to babies crawling around on the floor. The show consistently blurred lines between child and adult content, normalizing inappropriate references in spaces meant for toddlers. Rocco's Modern Life pushed the boundaries so aggressively that episodes featured Rocco working as a phone sex operator.
Oh, baby, oh, baby, oh, baby. Rocco? Mrs. Bighead?
A sign in the background read, "Be hot, be naughty, be courteous." Children watching this show absorbed imagery and concepts about adult services they had no business seeing. The chaotic nature of the show provided perfect cover for these inappropriate elements. The Ren and Stimpy show crossed every line possible. In one episode, Ren and Stimpy worked as door-to-door rubber nipple salesmen and encountered Mr. Horse, who creepily said, "So, nipples, huh? No, sir, I don't think I have any use for rubber nipples. I'll tell you what, though. Do you have any rubber walrus protectors?"
So, nipples, huh? No, sir, I don't think I have any use for rubber nipples. I'll tell you what, though. Do you have any rubber walrus protectors?
The entire interaction dripped with sexual undertones disguised as cartoon absurdity. Disney films weren't immune to this pattern either. The Little Mermaid included a marriage scene where the priest is seen to be aroused. And let's not forget Hey Arnold, with Helga's obsessive behavior and disturbing poetry. In one instance, she wrote, "Arnold, you make my girlhood tremble."
Arnold, you make my girlhood tremble.
This line sexualized a young girl's feelings in ways that should have raised immediate red flags. The show portrayed stalking and unhealthy obsession as romantic, teaching children dangerous lessons about relationships. Even live-action adaptations joined this trend. The Cat in the Hat movie featured a scene where the cat calls a gardening tool a dirty hoe, creating a deliberate double meaning that adults would recognize while children remained unaware.
Dirty hoe? I'm sorry, baby, I love you.
These weren't subtle nods to adult audiences anymore. They were blatant insertions of inappropriate content. Nickelodeon and Cartoon Network systematically embedded mature themes into supposedly child-friendly content. Both networks developed reputations for pushing boundaries, testing how much inappropriate material they could include before facing consequences. They treated children's programming as experimental ground for adult humor and themes. The psychological manipulation extends beyond hidden jokes and into the actual structure of modern children's entertainment. Shows like CoComelon use rapid scene changes and bright colors to overstimulate developing brains. Every few seconds, the screen explodes with new colors, sounds, and movements designed to trigger dopamine responses in young viewers. This isn't entertainment, it's neurological conditioning. CoComelon's creators studied how to make their content as addictive as possible. They engineered each episode to keep children glued to screens by overwhelming their sensory systems. The rapid-fire editing, constant noise, and saturated colors create an artificial high that regular play and interaction cannot match. Children become dependent on this overstimulation, struggling to focus on anything less intense. The children's book industry participated in this pattern as well. Publishers released books with disturbing imagery, inappropriate themes, and psychological manipulation disguised as educational content. These books introduce concepts about sexuality, violence, and adult problems to children who couldn't process or understand such material. Some children's books contain graphic illustrations of body parts, sexual situations, or violent scenarios presented as normal childhood experiences. Publishers justified these choices by claiming they addressed real-world issues, but they actually exposed children to trauma and confusion they weren't developmentally ready to handle. Studios treated these subtle elements as testing grounds for how much they could get away with. They monitored audience reactions, parental complaints, and regulatory responses to determine their boundaries. Each successful insertion of inappropriate content emboldened them to push further in future productions. The entertainment industry developed sophisticated methods for hiding inappropriate content in plain sight. They used visual tricks, audio cues, and narrative structures that adults might catch, but children would miss. This created a system where parents felt comfortable allowing their children to watch content that was undermining their development. Production teams included writers, animators, and voice actors who actively participated in inserting inappropriate material into children's content. They justified these choices as harmless humor or artistic expression, ignoring the psychological impact on their young audience. Many industry professionals later admitted they knew these elements were inappropriate, but included them anyway. These surface-level disturbances are just the beginning. The real horror lies much deeper beneath what we've explored so far. The inappropriate jokes and psychological manipulation represent only the tip of an iceberg that extends into truly disturbing territory. What we've seen represents the sanitized version of what actually happens in children's entertainment. The industry's willingness to sexualize children's content, manipulate developing minds, and prioritizing profit over protection reveals a systematic disregard for child welfare. The patterns we've identified aren't isolated incidents, but coordinated efforts to exploit young audiences for adult entertainment and financial gain. What happens when the disturbing content isn't just hidden anymore, but openly promoted to millions of children without parents knowing? The shift from subtle manipulation to blatant exploitation disguised as children's content represents a fundamental change in how predators target young audiences. Studios and content creators abandoned the careful balance of hiding inappropriate material and instead weaponized technology to deliver disturbing content directly to children while circumventing parental oversight completely. If you're enjoying the video so far and want to see more content like this, make sure to hit the subscribe button. It really helps out the channel and allows me to keep making videos for you. Alright, let's get back to it. The ElsaGate scandal exposed millions of videos featuring Spider-Man, Elsa, and other beloved characters in violent, sexual, and traumatic scenarios. These videos appeared normal in thumbnails and titles, but contained content that shocked even adults who accidentally discovered them. Content creators produced industrial quantities of these videos, knowing that children would click on familiar characters without understanding the horror that they were about to witness. These videos bypassed parental controls using familiar thumbnails while containing pregnancy fetishes, needle injections, and torture scenes that had no business existing in children's content. Parents who thought they were protecting their children by using YouTube Kids discovered that their kids had been watching Elsa getting pregnant, Spider-Man receiving injections in disturbing ways, and cartoon characters being tortured in graphic detail. The creators of these videos understood exactly how to manipulate YouTube's algorithm and parental filtering systems. They used character names like Elsa and Spider-Man in their titles and descriptions, ensuring that these videos would appear in searches for legitimate children's content. They designed thumbnails that looked innocent enough to pass automated content fillers, but contained imagery that would attract children's attention. The scale of ElsaGate reached into the millions of videos before platforms took action. Content farms produced these videos at industrial speed, creating hundreds of variations featuring different character combinations in the same disturbing scenarios. Children who watched one video found themselves in an algorithmic rabbit hole that fed them increasingly disturbing content, each video slightly more inappropriate than the last. The psychological damage from these videos extended beyond immediate trauma. Children who watched ElsaGate content often developed behavioral problems, sleep disturbances, and inappropriate sexual knowledge that they couldn't process or understand. Parents reported their children acting out scenarios they had seen in these videos, mimicking injection procedures and pregnancy behaviors they had witnessed in their cartoon heroes. The hypnotic programming techniques in shows like Teletubbies and In the Night Garden used repetitive patterns and trance-like pacing to condition young viewers in ways that bypassed normal cognitive development. These shows employed rapid scene changes, bright colors, and repetitive sounds designed to induce altered states of consciousness in children who couldn't defend themselves against such manipulation. Teletubbies particularly disturbed child development with its use of what critics called hypnotic or trance-like programming. The show featured repetitive phrases, bright colors, loud noises, and the presence of ominous speaker gods and a sun baby that created an unsettling viewing experience. The combination of these elements produced what some experts described as a form of psychological manipulation that could contribute to trance-like states in young viewers. The show's structure followed patterns common in hypnotic programming, using repetition and overstimulation to bypass critical thinking in developing minds. Children who watched Teletubbies often entered altered states where they become completely absorbed in the content, unable to respond to parents or external stimuli. This level of mental capture in such young children raised serious concerns about the show's true intentions. In the Night Garden employed similar techniques, using repetitive storylines, hypnotic music, and dreamlike sequences that blurred the line between reality and fantasy for young viewers. The show's creations deliberately designed content to be viewed before bedtime, taking advantage of children's natural drowsiness to increase the hypnotic effect of their programming. Real cases of children's shows being banned for promoting dangerous behaviors demonstrated how far some content creators pushed boundaries before facing consequences. The Australian government banned Peppa Pig episodes Mr. Skinny Legs and Spiderweb because they encouraged friendship with spiders, which posed real dangers to children in regions where venomous spiders were common threats. The decision to ban these Peppa Pig episodes highlighted how children's programming could promote dangerous behaviors, especially in regions where certain animals pose genuine threats to young children. Australian authorities recognized that teaching children to befriend spiders could result in serious injuries or death, making the content literally life-threatening for their target audience. Caillou faced bans and criticism for promoting bratty behavior that negatively influenced children's development. The episode Big Brother Caillou was banned in the United States in 2006 after parents and critics complained about a scene where Caillou pinches his infant sister Rosie. The scene was considered too disturbing for young children and set a harmful example for sibling relationships. The show's consistent portrayal of Caillou as a whining, demanding child who got his way through tantrums taught children that bratty behavior was acceptable and effective. Parents reported that their children's behavior deteriorated after watching the show, with kids adopting Caillou's whining patterns and demanding attitudes in their own homes. Major networks knowingly allowed adult fetish content to masquerade as children's programming for years without intervention. Shows like Mr. Meaty featured disturbing content that parents found too scary for their children, but networks continued airing these programs despite complaints. The show featured characters like Edward Carney and scenes that were considered genuinely disturbing by parents who refused to let their children watch. The overstimulation techniques used in modern children's programming led to attention span difficulties and emotional regulation issues in young viewers. Children who consumed high levels of overstimulating content struggled to focus on less intensive activities, requiring increasingly extreme stimulation to maintain interest in any form of entertainment or education. The entertainment industry's evolution from subtle manipulation to blatant exploitation represents a coordinated effort to access children's minds without parental awareness or consent. The combination of algorithm manipulation, psychological programming, and content that bypasses traditional safety measures created an environment where children could be targeted and influenced in ways their parents never imagined possible. The people who created your favorite childhood shows had dark secrets that would make your skin crawl. We've examined the disturbing content and psychological manipulation techniques, but now we need to confront an even more horrifying reality. The individuals behind these productions were often predators hiding in plain sight, using their positions of power to exploit the very children they claim to entertain. When we stop just looking at the shows and start looking at the people behind them, a scary pattern shows up. Some creators in kids' entertainment use their power in the worst way, hurting the very kids they were supposed to entertain. And instead of stopping them, many TV networks looked the other way. These weren't just accidents or mistakes. In many cases, it was a planned effort by powerful people who knew exactly how to take advantage of kids and the system that was supposed to keep them safe. Documented instances where cartoon characters were used as grooming tools by predators who infiltrated the industry represent the most disturbing aspect of this corruption. Predators working within animation studios and production companies created content that normalized inappropriate behavior and boundary violations. They embedded grooming techniques directly into storylines, into character interactions, and into educational segments that parents trusted as safe entertainment. The grooming process through children's content followed predictable patterns that child development experts later identified. Characters would normalize secret keeping, boundary violations, and inappropriate relationships between adults and children. These storylines weren't accidental. They were deliberately crafted by individuals who understood how to use familiar characters to break down children's natural protective instincts. Animation studios employed individuals who used their creative positions to insert grooming techniques into children's programming. These predators understood that parents would trust content from major networks and established studios, giving them unprecedented access to children's minds through seemingly innocent entertainment. The systematic nature of this exploitation required coordination between multiple individuals within production teams. The psychological impact of certain children's programming extended beyond immediate emotional distress to include long-term developmental damage. Children who watched specific shows exhibited measurable changes in brain activity, stress hormone levels, and behavioral patterns that persisted long after viewing ended. These psychological changes indicated that the content was causing actual neurological harm to developing minds. Research conducted by Dr. Dimitri Christakis and other child development experts identified specific techniques used in children's programming that caused measurable harm to young viewers. Their studies documented how rapid scene changes, overstimulation, and repetitive conditioning created addiction-like responses in children while simultaneously damaging their ability to focus on less stimulating activities. The connection between certain animated content and documented increases in self-harm behaviors among young viewers represents the most disturbing evidence of deliberate psychological manipulation. Hospital emergency rooms reported increases in specific types of self-harm behaviors that correlated directly with the airing of certain children's programs. These behaviors weren't random. They mirrored actions that characters performed in the shows, indicating that children were directly copying harmful behavior that they've witnessed in their entertainment. Child psychologists identified specific episodes and storylines that led to documented increases in self-harm behaviors among young viewers. These incidents weren't isolated cases. They represented patterns of harmful influence that could be traced directly to specific content. The correlation between certain shows and self-harm behavior was so strong that some hospitals began tracking viewing habits when treating children for unusual injuries. The pattern here shows something really disturbing. It seems like some creators were purposely adding scenes of self-harm into kids' shows just to see how it would affect young viewers. What's worse, these scenes didn't just show up in one or two places. They were in different shows on different channels. That makes it feel like the people making these shows were working together and knew exactly how their content would mess with kids' minds. The systematic covering up of these behind-the-scenes horrors reveals how networks prioritize profit over child safety at every level. When allegations surfaced, networks employed teams of lawyers, publicists, and executives to minimize damage and protect their investments rather than investigating claims or protecting victims. This coordinated response demonstrates that inappropriate behavior wasn't just tolerated, it was actively defended. We've reached the final layer, where entertainment crosses into documented psychological harm and criminal activity. This isn't about inappropriate jokes or toxic work environments anymore. This is where children's content becomes a weapon used by predators who understood exactly how to exploit the trust between parents, networks, and young audiences. Some children's content was created by individuals with documented histories of abuse or criminal behavior who used their positions to normalize harmful activities. These weren't background employees or minor contributors. They were showrunners, writers, and key creative figures who shaped the content that millions of children consume daily. Their criminal histories weren't discovered years later through investigative journalism. The networks knew about these backgrounds and chose to continue employing these individuals because their shows generated massive profits. Specific cases of children's shows later linked to real-world criminal investigations and court proceedings reveal how deeply criminal behavior penetrated the industry. The investigation into Brian Peck's sexual abuse of Drake Bell uncovered a network of industry professionals who wrote character letters supporting Peck during his trial. These letters came from individuals who continued working in children's entertainment, including voice actors, directors, and producers who knew about the abuse but chose to support the perpetrator rather than the victim. Dan Schneider represents the most prominent example of how predatory behavior flourished within children's television. The creator behind The Amanda Show, Drake and Josh, Zoe 101, iCarly, and Victorious earned recognition as the Norman Lear of children's television from the New York Times and received a Lifetime Achievement Award at the Kids' Choice Awards in 2014. His success provided perfect cover for a pattern of creating hyper-sexualized content featuring child actors across multiple Nickelodeon shows. Schneider's productions consistently featured inappropriate scenes and dialogue that somehow made it past network executives and into millions of homes. The documentary Quiet on Set details allegations of inappropriate content in his shows, including phallic imagery and all that, and references to the perineum in The Amanda Show. These weren't accidental inclusions. They were deliberate choices that sexualized child performers for adult audiences. The systematic nature of Schneider's inappropriate content becomes clear when examining specific examples across his various shows. Clips from Victorious show Ariana Grande making suggestive gestures that had no place in children's programming. Alexa Nicholas from Zoe 101 recalls a scene that was described by those on set as a cum shot, revealing how production teams actively participated in creating and recognizing inappropriate content involving minors. The power dynamics on Schneider's sets created environments where child actors felt compelled to participate in uncomfortable situations to advance their careers. Giovanni Samuels, a child actor on All That, revealed that she felt intimidated by Schneider's power to make or break a young actor's career, leading her to prioritize performing well to secure his approval. This highlights the immense pressure and exploitation present within Schneider-led productions, where young performers understood their complete dependence on his favor. Brian Hearn, another All That cast member, recounted instances of racially insensitive content in the show's skits. He described one sketch where he played a Girl Scout, and his mother felt the scene was staged to make it appear as if he was selling drugs. Hearn also recalled an off-color joke about his skin tone in a skin tone bodysuit, which at 35 still resonates with him. These experiences demonstrate how children of color faced additional exploitation through racially charged content. The toxic work environment extended beyond inappropriate content to include systematic discrimination and abuse of adult staff members. Former Amanda Show writers Christy Stratton and Jenny Kilgan alleged that they were paid less than their male counterparts and that Schneider fostered a hostile work environment, including making misogynistic comments. Kilgan filed a lawsuit against the production company in 2000, citing gender discrimination and a hostile work environment, which was later settled out of court. When confronted with these allegations, Schneider's representatives defended the content by claiming network approval. A spokesperson for Schneider stated that all these creative decisions were approved by network executives and a standards and practices team, arguing that if there were actual problems with the scenes, they would have been removed. This defense reveals how networks actively participated in enabling inappropriate content by providing official approval for clearly problematic material. The disturbing transformation of beloved characters extends beyond content creators to the performers themselves. David Joyner, who played Barney the dinosaur, later established a tantric massage business that raised serious questions about his motivations for working with children. While his massage practice wasn't illegal, the transition from children's entertainer to adult services provider highlighted concerning patterns among some performers who built their careers around child audiences. Voice actors' criminal convictions represent another dark aspect of the industry's failure to protect children. Multiple voice actors who worked on popular children's shows were later arrested for crimes involving minors, yet many continued working in the industry even after their convictions became public knowledge. These cases demonstrate how the entertainment industry prioritized talent and profit over child safety. The exploitation within animation studios created toxic environments where child voice actors were silenced by NDAs and industry power structures. Young performers who experienced inappropriate behavior faced legal barriers that prevented them from speaking out about their experiences. The combination of non-disclosure agreements, career threats, and industry intimidation created perfect conditions for abuse to continue unchecked. Brian Peck, a dialogue coach on All That and The Amanda Show, represents the most egregious example of predatory behavior within Schneider's productions. Peck was arrested in 2003 on child molestation charges, with Drake Bell alleging that Peck sexually assaulted him. Peck pleaded no contest to child sexual abuse charges in 2004 and was sentenced to 16 months in jail. The fact that a known predator worked closely with child actors on major network productions reveals systematic failures in background checking and child protection. The industry's response to these revelations demonstrates how networks prioritize damage control over justice. In 2018, Nickelodeon and Schneider ended their long-standing partnership, but only after years of allegations and mounting public pressure. A spokesperson for Schneider acknowledged that he expected a lot from his teams, which could lead to frustration, while expressing regret that some people did not have positive experiences on his shows. Lost media like Cry Baby Lane was buried because it was deemed too psychologically damaging for children after initial broadcast. Nickelodeon aired this made-for-TV movie once in 2000, then actively suppressed it for over a decade due to complaints about its disturbing content. The film featured themes of death, possession, and psychological horror that traumatized young viewers, yet it was initially approved and produced as children's entertainment. The documentary Quiet on Set: The Dark Side of Kids TV examines the allegations of toxic work environments on Nickelodeon shows associated with Dan Schneider. The series features interviews with former Nickelodeon crew members, child actors, and parents who describe a culture marked by sexual abuse, misogynistic and racially charged comments, and sexual innuendos baked into kids' programming. These first-hand accounts reveal how widespread and systematic the abuse had become. The failure of background checking systems allowed known predators to continue working in children's entertainment even after their criminal histories had become public. Studios and networks either failed to conduct proper background checks or chose to ignore red flags when hiring decisions were made. This systematic failure created environments where predators could access children through legitimate entertainment industry positions. The combination of NDAs, career threats, industry connections, and corporate legal teams meant that victims faced overwhelming obstacles when attempting to report abuse or seek justice. Many chose silence rather than risk destroying their careers or facing lengthy legal battles against powerful industry figures. But even these revelations pale in comparison to what lies in the deepest, darkest layer of this industry. The documented cases of abuse, toxic work environments, and predatory behavior represent only what's been discovered and reported. The final layer exposes a system where childhood innocence was systematically weaponized for purposes that should terrify every parent. The entertainment industry didn't just fail to protect children, it actively participated in their exploitation through content designed to make them more vulnerable to predators and abuse. The scale and coordination of this exploitation indicates that protecting children was never a priority for the individuals and organizations responsible for creating their entertainment. This systematic exploitation of children through entertainment represents one of the most disturbing betrayals of public trust in modern history. The industry that parents relied upon to provide safe, educational, and entertaining content for their children is actually using that trust to gain access to young minds for purposes that serve predators rather than protecting childhood innocence. The cartoons we grew up with weren't always as harmless as they seemed, and today, the media landscape is more complicated and more dangerous than ever before. Streaming platforms, algorithms, and interactive content are designed not just to entertain, but to influence, to shape young minds in ways most parents will never notice until it's too late. This video only scratched the surface of an industry built on subtle control. But now, at least you know where to start looking. Drop your thoughts in the comments. What's one cartoon or show that surprised you when you saw it again as an adult?